Hi there, Rick here. Um, there's a stock that I bought, okay? I think it was maybe about a month or a month and a half ago. Um, the stock symbol is SAFX, okay? Um, I'll just read this article here for you. Anyways, okay, I bought 1,000 shares at 41 cents, okay? Today it closed at $1.06, okay? So it's showing a profit of about 643 US dollars, okay? Just wanted to read this article from Yahoo Finance here because this is how I find out news about the different stocks, okay? Um, okay, so like I say, this is from Yahoo Finance, okay? Um, Another reason why I bought 1,000 shares of the stock too, when I researched the company, okay, I could see that they have assets. Okay, I see their plant. Okay, they also were building another plant somewhere too. Um, I think it was in the process. Okay, of basically being built. Okay, so I know that. Okay, there is some interest in this stock, right? Like, I mean, if a company doesn't have any assets, okay, that just kind of like really deters me away from investing any money in it, just because I know that okay, they just do not have any assets, right? um and another thing too was okay, I could see that their was it their plant is quite big. Okay. um it doesn't cover a little small area, right? And then they have other locations as well. Okay, so that's why I picked up 1,000 shares of it about uh when about 1 month or a month and a half ago. Um, okay, so I just want to read this article here. Okay, um, okay, it's for April 13th. Okay, XCF Global Incorporated, okay, a leading US based producer of sustainable aviation fuel focused on supporting decarbonization of aviation sector, today highlighted how domestically produced waste based sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, offers a fundamentally more resilient alternative to petroleum derived jet fuel. Okay, so what they're doing is uh, they're using waste based. Okay, I think when I read the article earlier of their business uh their business aim, okay, is uh they're using waste. Okay, basically I think from what is it, food. Okay, even I think waste from uh cattle, okay, to basically create their fuel. Okay, um and okay, I'll just continue with the article here. Recent disruptions to global crude oil supply routes, including ongoing constraints affecting the Strait of Hormuz, have driven sharp increases in jet fuel prices, renewed concerns about fuel availability for airlines worldwide. According to CNBC, reporting an industry pricing data, U.S. jet fuel prices have nearly doubled in recent weeks. That's a lot, okay? Rising from approximately 250 per gallon, okay, in late February to nearly 490 per gallon by early April, reflecting one of the most rapid fuel price increases in recent years. At the same time, limited tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has significantly constrained physical flow of crude oil and refined products. These events are once again exposing structural vulnerability of aviation fuel supply chains that depend on geopolitical exposed crude oil markets. Okay. In contrast, waste-based SAF produced in the United States relies on domestically sourced feedstocks such as used cooking oil. Okay, so yeah, they're using used cooking oil, okay, for their fuel, and other waste materials that are not tied to crude oil extraction, refining, or international shipping routes. At the feedstock level, these inputs are largely insulated from supply shocks and geopolitical risks currently affecting global petroleum markets. When jet fuel prices can nearly double in a matter of weeks, it exposes just how fragile crude based aviation fuel supply chains remain. Chris Cooper, Chief Executive Officer of XCF Global, waste based SAF starts with domestic materials, domestic infrastructure, and domestic labor. That structurally difference matters not only for decarbonization, but for fuel security and reliability when global energy systems are under stress. Okay. XCF's global perspective, it builds on the company's March statement addressing the initial impacts of the Middle East related disruptions on fuel markets since then. The volatility has continued with airlines confronting continued uncertainty around fuel price and availability. Okay. So if fuel is what for airlines, okay, um, has almost, doubled from, 250 to 490. Okay. The airlines, they got no choice. They have to raise their prices, okay, for their tickets when people fly. They got no choice because their costs are going up, okay. While the SAF prices can reflect broader market dynamics, the underlying supply chain for waste-based SAF remains structurally distinct from petroleum jet fuel. Crude oil disruptions affect conventional jet fuel immediately and directly, while waste-based SAF is to the same upstream's risk, providing the meaningful layer of supply chain resilience. XCF Global is an emerging U.S. sustainable aviation fuel producer. Okay, so yeah, I see that this company, okay, XCF Global, okay, they're targeting the was it the aviation fuel market, right? And I think they're trying to, well, sell their fuel to the airlines, right? That's a huge market. It's probably like $1 billion market right there. Okay. With a permitted nameplate capacity of 38 million gallons per year, so that's quite a bit. Okay, like I mean, okay, they're producing what, 38 million gallons of fuel a year. That's a lot, right? Um, I think still on I was going to say more of uh, a world a world consumption. Okay, 38 million gallons. Okay, it's still not a whole lot. Okay, um, just continue with the story here. Um, and its New Rise Renewables facility in Reno, Nevada. Okay, so yeah, they I think they're in the process of building this facility, a new facility in Reno, Nevada. Okay, potentially capable of supporting up to 100 million gallons of blended SAF, depending on blend ratios. The facility is currently undergoing a planned turnaround as part of ongoing equipment upgrades designed to enhance long-term reliability and performance. Okay, I find this quite interesting because, um, they're using, they're using cooking oil, right, to, you know, to power planes, right? Um, okay, this moment is not just a reminder why SAF matters for emissions reduction. Okay, so this is a green energy type of business, right? Because um, it doesn't produce so much emissions that go into the air. Okay. Cooper added, it's also a reminder that sorry, energy security starts at the origin of the fuel. We believe domestic SAF production represents a near term opportunity to reduce both carbon intensity and geopolitical exposure for the aviation industry. Okay. As global energy markets navigate continued instability, XCF Global remains focused on strengthening SAF infrastructure and advancing a fuel supply model that supports resilient aviation operations while contributing to long term decarbonization goals. Okay. Um, XCF Global is an emergent sustainable aviation fuel company dedicated to accelerating the aviation industry's transition to net zero emissions. Okay. Our flagship facility, New Rise Renewables, Reno. Okay. So that's their main, kind of like their facility. Okay. It's in Reno, Nevada. Okay. Um, it's called New Rise Renewables. Okay. Sorry, New Rise Renewables Reno. Okay. Has a permitted nameplate production capacity of 38 million gallons per year, positioning XCF as an early mover among large scale SAF producers in North America. Um, XCF is working to advance a pipeline of potential expansion opportunities in Nevada, North Carolina, Florida, and to build partnerships across the energy transportation sectors to scale SAF Global. XCF is listed on the NASDAQ Capital Market and trades under the ticker SAFX. So I see too that um, just for today, okay, 58 million shares were traded in SAFX, okay. So usually, okay, when there's very large volume, okay, it's either the stock is going down or up, okay. So today it was going up, and I think it went up 25 cents today, okay. Just let me have a look. Um, yeah, it went up 25 cents. So that's 31% movement. Okay. Um, what else can I say about it here? Just want to see the 1 day, 1 minute candles here on it. Okay, so I see that it opened at about, what is it, 99 cents. It hit a high of 127, retracted down to about a low of 96, and then near the end of the day, okay, it went from uh 96 all the way up to this is from Newswire, okay. um Newswire is another uh kind of like um news agency that brings out news on different stocks, okay. um So it just says here, okay, jet fuel prices have nearly doubled in weeks as global supply routes tighten, exposing vulnerabilities in crude-based aviation fuel. Says here, domestic waste-based SAF uses feedstocks, okay, that are not directly linked to global petroleum supply routes and crude oil extraction. So yeah, they're using uh, feedstocks, okay, from cattle, okay. But still, 38 million gallons is not a lot, okay. Um, I don't know how much aviation fuel is used in United States alone, right? But if they were just using fuel from SAFX, right? 38 million gallons might only last for about a week or less than a week, right? Because they planes use a lot of fuel, right? But it's nice that a company like this has um, just kind of like tapped into that market, right? And they're like I say, they're trying to get more and more feedstock so they can transfer that waste material and make it into aviation fuel. Quite interesting technology, right? Um, who knows, right? Maybe it goes all the way up to $20 a share, right? Um, because looks what's happening to the price of aviation fuel just in a few weeks alone is doubled. Um, I didn't know that until I read this article, right? 250 a gallon to like about 490 a gallon. That's quite a price increase. And these airlines, yeah, they got no choice. They have to raise their prices. If they don't, then they end up losing money, right? Or yeah, they just end up losing money. And no business is in business to lose money, right? They have to um, they have to raise their prices.